Thanks, Whitney. So today we're going to be going over some email best practices for collections. And like Whitney said, I'm the marketing manager of Lockstep. I've been working with AR automation solutions for about 4 years now, and I've been helping our customers to create email templates that help them collect the most cash. So a little bit about our agenda today. First, we're going to go over Lockstep and Anytime Collect pretty briefly. And that's when we'll get into barriers to collection email success, our best practices to mitigate those barriers, and then some testing methods you can use for continued success with your collection emails. A little bit about Lockstep. We are the publishers of Anytime Collect, which is an AR automation solution. Anytime Collect makes collecting cash faster and easier, and also helps make your bank balance bigger. Anytime Collect is used by over 170 companies, and you can see some of those companies on the right, and you might even recognize them. And that accounts for about 10,000 users that are on Anytime Collect daily. We're also the leader in ERP integration, so our integration platform has the most number of connectors in the industry, and we're adding new integrations every month. Now we'll get into some of those barriers to collection email success. So the average read rate of an email is 24%. So that means about 3 out of the 4 of the emails that you're sending to your customers in the past month were likely never even read by them. And there's quite a few reasons for why this happens. The first is spam filters, and you're probably familiar with spam filters just being a user of email. But the second most common reason that a spam filter enacts is because your customers aren't recognizing that the email is coming from you. So they might think that the email is just another spam email asking for money. Customers can easily complain about your emails if they don't realize that it is coming from you and it's a legitimate email source. Another reason that spam filters enact is because you're emailing to people that are no longer with the company. So if you're not actively cleaning up your list, then you might be mailing to a large number of addresses that appear to be nearing abandonment. And that's a red flag for spam filters to trigger. And then finally, you might have been using spam trigger words. And we'll go over this a little bit more later on what exactly those spam trigger words are and what you can do to avoid them. And then there's clogged email inboxes. So on average, professionals have more than 200 emails in their inbox, and then they're receiving another 120 new ones each day. But they can only get to responding to about 25% of them. So think about when you're logging into your computer each day. You log into your email and you have dozens and dozens of new email in your inbox. You're probably not sitting there and meticulously going through each one to read the email in full. You're going through and seeing, what's catching your attention, what seems like it needs you to do something right away. And so there's that split second that you really need to catch the eye of your reader and get them to pay attention to your email. And then here's where we're going to launch a poll because manual emails tend to be another barrier to collection success. So we just want to know how many of you are currently using manual emails as your method of sending out collections today. Seems like quite a few of you are doing a little bit of both. All right, so it looks like about 84% of the people on this call are doing a mix of automated and manual. And then we've got about 11% that are still doing it with just manual emails. So as many of you know, we found out that sending a manual email takes about 3 minutes to write. And if you have about 500 invoices per month that you're creating, or 500 follow-ups and reminders to send, it would take you about 3 days of nonstop work, 8 hours a day, to send out all of these manual emails. And as I'm sure many of you know, with all of the AR tasks that there are to do, there's just simply not enough time in the day to get this done by sending everything manually. And even if you're not sending emails manually and you are using some email automation, if it's not AR specific, there's a higher chance that those emails will be ignored or not taken action as soon as the customer gets it because they don't have all the AR information they need to complete the task. Your customers need to be able to see all of the information they need to make it a payment quickly by having the invoice number, the amount due, the days past due, or any of the other relevant information in your collections process, so that they don't have to come back later to that email to get the payment done. So here's some of the best practices that you can start adding to your collections process. 69% of email recipients report that email is spam based solely on the subject line. We're going to launch our second poll here because we just want to know how often some of you are hearing from your customers that they never got your email. All right, it looks like, again, we're right in the middle. Most of you are saying that you sometimes hear that they never got your email. About 5% of you are hearing this all the time. And a small, about 10% are saying that it's rare that they hear this. And one of the main reasons that this might be happening is the spam trigger words that we talked about earlier. So as you can see, these are some really common trigger words that are important to avoid, but they're also really common words in AR. Money, dollar signs, credit, price, but they're very common also in a lot of the spam emails that we get. So, act now to save 50%, or you have the, Nigerian prince emails where they need money sent to them because they're your long-lost cousin. But these words have been deemed by Outlook and Gmail to be common spam triggers. So it's important to get a little bit creative in what those subject lines are that you're creating so that you can still get the importance across to your customer without using these types of words. Another way that you can grab your reader's attention immediately without using some of those words in your subject line is by using preview text. So preview text is 75 to 100 words, more than you can get out of a subject line. And studies show that using preview text can increase your click-throughs up to 30% on an email. But you have to remember that if you leave preview text blank, a lot of email clients like Outlook and Gmail will simply insert the first line from the email itself. So all it's going to show there is, hi, Susan, hope you're doing well, which doesn't give your reader any additional information on what that email is going to be about. So here I have a couple examples here. These emails have a subject line of my first name, your invoice for any time collect is due. Then the preview text gives them more information on what this email is going to be about. So it's about invoice number 1234. It's valuable and important to the reader because now they know it's 10 days past due without even having to open the email. And it's telling them that the action they should take is making a payment now in our portal. You can see, again, it's a little bit more of a variant on this. Subject line has reminder, your invoice is past due. And then the preview text gives more information because the email is about the invoice for any time collect. It's valuable because it's 10 days past due. And the action it's saying is, can you pay now? So now that we've discussed subject lines and preview text to grab the customer's attention before they've even read through the email, we're going to get to the meat of the email, which is the content within it. And in a study by HubSpot of over 2.1 million customers, they found that emails with approximately 20 lines of text had the highest click-through rates. So this translates to about 200 words or 1 minute of read time. And like we talked about before, people are inundated with emails. So it's more important than ever to make sure that these emails are short. They get the point across without having to go into multiple paragraphs. So you have to include the most important details and end it there. What do they need to make the payment? The due date, days past due, invoice number, the amount. You might have to add a little bit more to meet your collection process needs, but just sticking to that general rule of thumb of only about 200 words. So what is tonality? Tonality is the words that you're using in your email that convey to the reader if you're angry, friendly, mad, happy, disappointed, and so does your punctuation. So if you're adding a bunch of capitalized words in the middle of your emails, you have to remember that a lot of times this conveys to a reader that you're yelling at them. And your emails in AR are simply an extension of your customer service. So making sure that your tonality is meeting the customer on a level of customer service is really important. And you never want to send an aggressively worded email to a customer who is receiving their first invoice notice or their first past due. Including consequences to non-payment in these first emails should be restricted, but you can start using more stern tones as you get to the second or third past due notice. And this might include things that fit your collections process, such as citing that it's going to move up in escalation, cutting off credit, or sending it to collections. But you just have to make sure that stern or that friendly tone is meeting your customer and where they are in your collections process. So now we're going to get into personalization. Studies have shown that customers are more likely to interact with an email if there's personalization. So according to Statista, the open rate for emails with a personalized message was 17.6%, compared to emails without personalization only had an 11.4% open rate. And here's where you can use some of that personalization. I included an email I got here in my personal inbox, and it says, "Feed Tito something he loves." And this really grabbed my attention because Tito is my dog, and it's not often that I get emails from somebody about my dog. And although that we're probably not going to be citing our customers' dogs in our emails, something as simple as just having their first name in the subject line has shown to increase engagement rates. So a study from HubSpot showed that emails including the first name of the recipient in their subject line had higher rates of taking action than emails that didn't. You can also be using personalization in your greetings with your customers. So just putting, hi first name and using that customer's first name in the greeting instead of, hi customer or hi the company name. And then using some personalization in your language that you use. So you don't want your emails to make it sound like it's coming from a robot, especially if you're copy and pasting because you have to do those manual emails. Make sure that there's some friendlier language and tone in what you're doing than just simply, remit payment to. Things like, "Hope you're doing well," "This is a friendly reminder," or "Let me know if you have any questions." And then making sure that your emails are relevant. So you'll want to put your customers into buckets based on where they're at in the collections process. You don't want to be sending out a mass email blast to remind the customer to pay upcoming invoices if you're not even sure that they have an outstanding invoice at that time. Something as simple as signatures can make a difference in whether your emails get paid upon or actually read by your customers. Signatures help to convey authority, and they make clear which organization you're with, reminding them of the customer of who you are and what their relationship with you is. So I included just my signature here. It's pretty simple. It has my, my name, my title, phone, email address, and the logo of the company. So this helps them to recognize your brand and trigger that memory of what company they're dealing with. And one way that you can get a really easy way to get a signature from your company so you don't have to try and make this yourself is to go talk to your marketing team. A lot of times in companies, marketing teams already have these signatures created, and they can help set it up for you, and it'll look on brand and help trigger those memories for your customer. And here we have calls to action. So a call to action is something that tells your customer exactly what you want them to do with this email. And it's very obvious to them when looking at the email. And in here we have the call to action of this View Invoice button. So this is a typical email that comes out of Anytime Collect. Using sequencing, Anytime Collect users can group their customers into buckets based on past due, as well as whether they need white glove service. And these email templates have all the information on a customer that they need to pay on time. And we call these snippet codes. So you can see here in this email it says, "Hi Ann." It has the due date, it has the amount for the invoice. And these all were brought into the email. If you saw the original email, it would have just said "Hi first name," the invoice for amount. But using those snippet codes, it pulled in that unique customer data automatically, so that didn't have to be personalized individually or manually. And then, like I said before, there's this one clear call to action, which when clicked on would take you into an online payment portal. And we use the call to action for the portal as opposed to attaching an invoice or attaching a statement, because we found that emails that have attachments with PDFs are more likely to be sent to spam, because email, Gmail or Outlook has recognized that attachments like this tend to come in phishing emails or spam emails. So they can click on this invoice, and then it takes them out to a payment portal where they can pay, send you a message, dispute it, promise to pay, or they could download those attachments if that's how they prefer. They still have the option to get those PDFs, but it's not going to send your emails to their spam folder. We also found in our AR benchmarks data, which is an ebook that you can download off of our website. We took a snapshot of our customers before they started using sequencing and online portals, and again after they started using it. And we found that once they implemented online payments for customer self-service, they saw an average decrease in average days delinquent of 14 days and an 8% decrease in past due. So allowing customers to use this type of self-service straight from an email helped to decrease their DSO. And just like the content in your emails is so important in what you're saying, the tone you're using, the words you're using, so are the visuals. In fact, a lot of people don't like when people are using irregular fonts, font sizes, or font colors in an email. So about 60% of people find it unacceptable for professional emails to use different font sizes, irregular fonts, or different font colors. And then 70% of people prefer fonts to be one size. And a lot of times if you're like copying and pasting things into an email, those font sizes will start to become irregular. So it's important to go back and make sure that all of your fonts are one size. And one way to make sure that all of your emails are visually appealing is to work with your marketing team to keep your emails on brand. It's likely that your marketing team has a set font that they use, specific colors and logos, and they can help you to create email templates. So instead of having to manually generate a lot of these emails every day, and they might be different every time, is to just create one singular email template that you can use over and over again and make sure that it's visually appealing every time. And then your timing is really important on your emails. If you're not timing your emails to your customers correctly, your email could just get lost in that mix of emails coming in every day, and then they're being left to sit unopened. So before you send an email out to a customer, take the time to look at where they're located. If they're in a time zone that's 3 hours behind you, you don't want to send it at 9 o'clock because then they're getting it at 6 a.m. and it's just getting stuck in that morning mix of all the other junk that they received overnight. Or if you're doing international collections and you're sending an email out on a Friday, then they're getting it in their inbox on a Saturday and they're not even going to see it until Monday. Also, try not to be sending emails at inopportune times. So consider when a customer might be on their lunch break. You don't really want to send them around noon or 1. And then we try to never send our emails out on Mondays or Fridays because they're most likely for a day that someone might take off for a long weekend. So by the time they get back and look at their pile up of emails from that vacation time, yours is going to be sitting at the bottom of the to-do list. And then there's frequency. So have you ever gotten so many emails from someone that you simply just stopped reading them? There's a fine line between not enough emails and too many emails. So if you don't send enough, then the customer might not understand that urgency behind what you're trying to send. But if you send too many, especially if they're not specific or personalized, then they're just going to start ignoring them. And it's okay to kind of play around with this in your business because everybody's customer base is different. So you might need to take some time to find that sweet spot of what's going to get your customers to react. And something that helps with that is AR sequencing. So with Anytime Collect AR sequencing, your team creates email templates that fit your message and set up your business rules to fit the timing and frequency that you need. Maybe you have a bucket for the customers that are international and one for United States, or you have a bucket for your white glove customers versus your customers who typically pay late. And then using the sequencing ensures that they're getting that right message at the right time. It also helps with customer accountability. So imagine if you have 20 customers who have yet to pay a bill that they owe on. Maybe 10 of them were never planning to make a payment. But then there's the other 10 who just missed that first original invoice email. If you continue to hit them with the reminders to pay, that 10 that simply just missed that first email are likely to pay as they receive these reminders. So you can see in the graphic that we created for AR sequencing, they'll continue to get these reminders on a set schedule that you choose. And say they pay on this 14 days past due rule, then they're taken out of the sequencing and they're not going to get the rest of these reminders. But if they haven't, then they're eventually going to get to the point where then your collectors are going to have to call them. So now that we've done all of the best practices, how can you test them to make sure that you continue to have success? One of the methods that we recommend is by using A/B testing. A/B testing is a process of showing 2 different types of emails to your customers, to 2 different segments of them, and then you can compare the results to see which had the best payments, open rates, click-through rates. And typically in A/B testing, the email that gets the highest conversions or the highest paid invoices is the winning one, and then you'll start using that variant to help you optimize your emails for better results. So make sure that before you start testing, you have a clear idea of what the results are you're looking for. And then use A as your control, so leaving it as whatever you're currently using in your emails. And then use B for something new. Never test more than one thing at a time, because then you won't know exactly what is causing your email to perform better. So here are some things that you can test. You can test your call to action. So maybe that's using a regular hyperlink versus a button, or having the button say make a payment versus view invoice, and test and see which one gets your customers to click on it more often. The subject line and personalization. So here's an example of a test that HubSpot did. They wanted to look at what the impact of name personalization had on their open rates. And they tested the first and last name only, and first name only. For them, it showed up that first and last name had the best open rates. But it's also important to remember that you could get different results. So this doesn't mean that every email with a first and last name in the subject line is going to get the best open rate. It just means that it worked for them. And then you can always test, what's in your body text, what kind of snippet codes maybe are you using, or what kind of personalization are you using in your body text. And then it's time to measure and learn from the results. So once you've run your email campaign with the 2 different versions, you need to look at the results for the open rate, the click-through rate, and the number of paid invoices once they're in the portal. So one way that you can check with open rate and click-through rate, a great tool for that is SendGrid. They allow you to keep track of how many emails were opened and clicked on. The average open rate for email is around 15 to 25%. So that's what you want to shoot for, as well as a 2.5% click-through rate. But that's just a baseline to get started. Every industry is different, so it could vary a little bit up or down. And then for your calls to action, you want to see how often customers are using your portal when it's offered to them. So if you want your customers to be self-serving their own payments, then it's time to go back and A/B test your calls to action to take them into the portal. And then you just keep building on this. You'll never be done testing. You'll never be done learning, and there's always room to improve with your emails. So you just have to go back and see different things you can test and keep trying to get better and better percentages on with your customers. And that's all that I had. So we can open it up for Q&A if there's any questions.